Here we go. Here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to Not Another Podcast. So glad to have all of you back once again. My name is Sipho Wana, and I'm joined again by my two homies, my co-hosts, Sunshine, Raz Msane, and Undima Silwana. And yeah, today we've got a very interesting topic. There's an age-old saying that says, when the United States sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Did
You start the domino effect, man.
did they sneeze? Did they sneeze, bro? They sneezed
Boy,
this
did
week,
they.
and yeah, we're here to talk about it today. But before we get into that, how are you guys doing, man? How are you feeling?
Feeling good, feeling good. No complaints. Ready to go.
Yeah. Feeling great, dog. A lot of action happened this week in South Africa, dog. Let's see what's happening, man.
A lot of action indeed. So just to kick it off, man. Okay, so everyone tuned in. Trump versus Ramaphosa, South Africa versus the United States. A very polarizing event because based on who you listened to and based on the media you watched and the news you watched, some
Mm-hmm.
people said Ramaphosa got owned. Some people say Trump got owned and humiliated. Some people are in between. There's only a few people I rate are in between, but everyone has like a very polarizing opinion. It's like you're either on the left or you're on the right. Just to
As
kick
usual.
things off, exactly, bro. So just to kick things
As
off,
you,
exactly. So just to kick things off, like, what is your opinion of the whole thing? I'll start with you, Sunshine.
well, I feel quite positive about everything, bro. In the sense of, dude, we all know that South Africa and the US are great allies, bro. So South
Hmm.
Africa needs the US, and the US needs South Africa, bro.
Yeah.
So I don't look at it in a negative sense. I'm very happy that Trump and Ramaphosa got together and sit down and discuss issues and
Hmm.
how they could boost their investments. I mean, look, dude,
Mm.
we've got like plus minus 600 companies from the US and South Africa.
Yeah.
So the US is assisting the economy in South Africa, and we also supplying minerals to the US. So I'm
Hmm.
quite positive and I'm happy about what happened. I'm very happy about what
With the 600 companies that you mentioned, they have a lot of influence on our economy,
happened.
because
Mm-hmm,
these
mm-hmm,
people are
mm-hmm,
bringing a lot of jobs, they're bringing a
mm-hmm,
lot of
mm-hmm.
infrastructure as well. And what they have to say about our country is something we have to take very seriously, whether they are
For
right or
sure.
wrong. And then I'll just move over
Mm.
to Undima. Like, what's your take on the whole thing?
So I took a few things away from that press conference. One of the things that I liked was I did like the fact that President Cyril, John Steenhuisen, and who was the third representative, if you could remind me.
The
Who's
talking
that?
about the lady.
Yes.
Zingiswalosi.
Yeah. Also,
Yes,
yeah.
Usingso. I did like the fact that they really gave us the impression that they were there as a unified front. They were there
Yeah.
to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
represent the country. They weren't there for individual interests.
For
And I
sure.
think I've mentioned this before. I liked the fact that Steenhuisen did come in to fill in the cracks where Cyril failed to. Because what I
Yeah.
noticed is that Cyril got caught off guard by Trump's slideshow and the quote unquote receipts to the point where he kind of did what he usually does, which is he avoids answering the question, but in a very shrewd kind of way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can tell that there's a lot of information and context that he failed to provide that others
Mm.
came in to provide for him to give a fuller
Mm.
picture of what's actually going on regarding the farm murders and is it a genocide, is it not a genocide, etc., etc. So I liked those things, and I did like that they kept it at the end of the day. Cyril and those who were there with him, at the end of the day, when the dust clears, when all the conspiracy stuff clears, they brought it back down to we need to focus on trade, we need to focus on what
Yeah.
matters,
Mm-hmm.
what will
Mm-hmm.
benefit
Mm-hmm.
the everyday South African, etc., etc. So I like those
Yeah.
things. There was a lot to take away from it, but another thing that I didn't like, which has a lot more to do with America than it has to do with us, it's
Mm-hmm.
how easily propaganda can take root
Mm-hmm.
when it's got to do with people who look like you. So I don't know if
Mm.
they'll ever admit it, but people like Trump and the US presidency, I think they jumped at this whole claim of white genocide because of a sense of familiarity. They're like, oh, what? This
Yeah.
tiny minority of white people is being killed off? Like, and at the same time, it plays into just how little people actually know about South Africa. You would have thought that Trump
Mm-hmm.
would have done his homework as well before he committed to this whole thing, but he didn't, clearly,
Yeah.
because he completely believed that there must be some kind of issue where white Afrikaners are being killed in droves, like, like there are piles of dead bodies in the streets. You can tell that that's the picture that he came away with, and
Yeah.
he didn't do his research. So I'm glad, though, that our representatives were there to clarify and say, no, listen, we have a violence problem in the country, we have a murder problem in the country.
A
It's not
crime issue.
about white
Yeah.
people. Yes, the big factor is simply that white farmers, or farmers in general, are just easy targets. They live
Mm.
in the middle of nowhere. They live on the outskirts of
Mm.
society. They're far from police. They're far from any quick responders. So if criminals want to take a chance, they're going to try it with people who are defenseless, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my takes for now.
Yeah, I like what you let me just get circle back to the whole white farm killing because this is something Trump was adamant on throughout the entire press conference. And like you
Mm,
said, like I'll just have my take on it quickly. Like I did feel like our president was caught off guard by the whole thing.
mm,
And I feel like that was a blunder on Team SA side because I felt like whoever was advising him before the press conference they should have known
mm,
that was going to be at the top of the agenda because
mm,
the entire narrative of the white the white farm killings genocide was it got to a point where it almost felt like it was sensationalized.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the main thing that they should have known from the jump that okay he might come out
mm,
swinging about this and which he did. And as much as John Steenhuisen did like clear the air on that a bit. I feel like he didn't really set the record as clearly as Umamuzingiswa Losi did because she's the one
mm,
who actually said that no, what is happening is South Africa has a crime issue. It's not a race thing. And that was also the same sentiment was echoed by Johan Rupert when he also
Mm-hmm.
said that this the crime thing in South Africa is not a race thing. It's not just that there are white people being killed on farms. It's across the board. And he also alluded to John Steenhuisen's administration, the DA in Cape Town, where there's a crime issue, a gang warfare issue in the Cape Flats. And I was very glad he
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that because now
mm,
it sheds more light on the seriousness of the issue of South Africa in general. But it's also a
mm,
catch 22 because now you're saying that, okay, it's not just white people who are getting killed, it's everyone.
mm,
And that unfortunately does put our country in a bad light. But in order to set the record straight, that had to be addressed. And
mm,
so it's a catch 22 in that sense because damn if you do, damn if you don't. Because if you refute the white farm killings, right, someone else sort of asked that, okay, then what about all the crimes that are happening, like the gender based violence sort of thing? You know,
mm,
Mm-hmm.
so as much as the whole thing was refuted, like I said, it's a catch 22. Like there was no real winning from our side on that, but the record was set straight, and I think Trump is not the one to admit that he's wrong, but he is
mm,
willing to listen and have his perspective changed. But he will never openly admit that he's wrong. And
mm,
what I think I can take away from that is that as Team South Africa, I wouldn't say that we won per se, ne? I mean, we got what we wanted, right? I mean, we're now going to have more engaging talks with Trump. We're now going to possibly have President Trump coming to the G20 summit, which is later on this year, and I feel like that is a victory in itself. But there's still more to be done to actually convince the man that yo, you can do business in South Africa. Your people don't have anything to worry about, and that's on us to fix as a country. So
mm.
that's just how I interpret it, and then I'll just go to Raz and hear his take on it.
But when it comes to the white farmer killings in South Africa, it is a touchy topic because, look, I've been following this topic before it came to this whole thing of Trump and people seeing it on the media or it being exposed highly in the media.
Mm-hmm.
Look, where I first got exposed to this was Carte Blanche. So I watch Carte Blanche a lot, and they have documentaries of white farmer killings. So I
Yeah.
will admit that there are white farmer killings and white farmers
Mm-hmm.
here they are being targeted. That is true,
Of
Yeah.
course.
That is true.
and
Yes.
it has been happening in South Africa. So that I won't say is something that is not happening in South Africa. It is happening. However, I do feel as though it is being exaggerated
Mm-hmm.
because I took some time to look at the stats, and the reality is, and the 27,000, annual murders that take place in South Africa, white farmer killings only contribute 1% to that. So it goes
You
back
know?
to what you were saying, Wilk. So what about the other murders, the
Yeah.
GBV, the cold-blooded murders where people are just robbing, whatever the case is?
Yeah.
So I'm not dismissing the fact that white farmer killings are taking place. They definitely are taking place. And to the people who are engaging in those activities, if you could please stop, man. We're not trying to promote any type of murder in South Africa, whether it's white farmer murders or robbery or just murder itself shouldn't be
Yeah.
happening in South Africa, right? Across the board.
Yeah. Across the
So
board,
for
yes.
sure, yeah, across the board, man, we can't have murders, bro. So
I mean,
that is a bad thing. It is being exaggerated because there are heavy crimes that are taking place in South Africa. Which, for instance, let me check. If you check the minister, who's this minister, Mkhulu, police. They
yeah.
had a meeting at Gigs on Friday in Pretoria.
Mhm.
And this is what he had to say. He said, we have respect for the US as a country. We have respect for the people in that country and for President Trump. But we have no respect for this genocide story at all. And it's totally
Yeah.
unfounded and unsubstantiated. And that's the reality, bro. When we look at the stats, and we're going to do this later in the show, when we look at the crime stats in South Africa, you'll see that white farmer killings does not contribute to the majority of the murders which are taking place in South Africa currently. So yeah, man. I'm on my side, just to conclude. Please, man, to the people taking place in these white farmer killings, please stop. It really is a bad thing. Please stop targeting these white farmers. It doesn't come across good. But let's also deal with the other issues that are affecting the country besides the white farmer killings.
And just to add to that, just to reiterate the point is that we are not saying that white farm killings aren't happening, right?
Mhm.
All we're saying is that we're admitting that these killings are happening, just not at
Definitely.
the rate and the magnitude
It's
that
not a
is being
genocide.
portrayed. Yes, it's not a genocide, but just not at the
It's not a
magnitude that is being
genocide.
portrayed in the way, like in the media, in international media. We have other issues that are happening that are just as bad. I mean, one murder to a person is one murder too much, whether it's a black
For
person
sure.
or a white person. And that's what we're saying. And then what else would you guys say stood out to you? Like, how did you guys feel about Johan Rupert's presence in the meeting along with the two golfers?
So first of all, I don't know why Ernie Els and who was the other guy?
My goodness, Retief Goosen.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
mean,
why
they
they
played
did
golf
that.
with Trump, bro.
Yeah, but it's like, bro, why? My main issue though was well, not issue,
Yeah,
but I thought it was very interesting that Rupert was there. It's like, if you know, you know, but it's like
yeah.
it was almost like the real handler showed his face.
The
If
master.
the master puppeteer, the guy behind everything, suddenly has to
Yeah,
make an appearance, and it raises questions as to why did he feel it was that important that he had to be there? You
I
know,
can tell you,
what?
but yeah, go on.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
that's my most interesting takeaway is first
Yeah,
of all, I don't know why we needed two golfers there, but most
yeah.
importantly, it was very, very interesting that Rupert was there. But then just to circle back a bit when it comes to what was I going to say? Oh, when it comes to everyone's perception of the farm murders and what it's become in the internet space and how it's taken root in other countries, it just
Mm-hmm.
goes to show how powerful of a tool for propaganda social media can be, because they took someone somewhere or some group of people somewhere. I'm not saying they're all in one mission, but a small
Mm-hmm.
enough group of people took this issue and they exploded it into something completely different. They spun an entire story around it, along with the fact that so many people know so little about South Africa abroad,
Yes.
took root because everyone knows nothing already. But now you're telling them that, oh look, they're trying to kill all the white people and etc. etc.
Yeah.
And then people are going to believe it. And of course, the president of the United States of America would even believe it without actually doing the legwork of, is this true? What are the numbers, etc., etc. Because even the way that, if you've been paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to how certain people, Americans in particular, have been talking about the farm murder issue and calling it a genocide. Like, for example, I think Jordan Peterson has even been like in on this topic. Like, he's been talking about how
Yeah.
this is such a serious, like, big problem, and it's like, like, it's like, where did this even come from? How did it get this bad, where we took this very serious issue and blew it up into something that we even had dared to call genocide? Like, do people understand that genocide is the systematic targeting of a specific group of people in order to
Mm,
wipe them out.
mm.
How many white Afrikaners do we have in this country in total? Isn't it a young 2 3
I
million
don't know.
people? Have
But they're in the
Yeah.
minority.
exactly, but the point is, in order to even scratch the surface of what
Yeah.
it would take for this to qualify as a genocide, we don't even come close to those numbers. Not even
Can I tell
close.
you what, Dima? The
No, go ahead.
Holocaust. The Holocaust was a genocide. 6 million people died
Exactly.
in the Holocaust. That
Sure.
is a genocide.
Approximately.
Approximately 6 million, right?
Mhm.
I don't know what to call this, but this is not a genocide. I don't want to say something that belittles the situation, but
Mm,
this is far from what you would call a genocide. So
mm,
let's just
No,
get that straight.
and-
it's proven that it's not a genocide, though. It's just a quick
Yeah.
one. It's
mm,
proven. We need to understand that we're not talking about maybe how you feel or how I feel or how
Mm,
Ujima feels.
yeah.
This is proven that it's not a genocide.
mm,
It's been proven at
Yeah.
court. They even took them to court, and the court stood and said this is not or cannot be
mm,
qualified as a genocide. The Minister of
Mm-hmm.
Police took out reports on Friday and said this is not a genocide. So it's not about how anyone feels, it's about facts and
Yeah.
stats. At
mm.
Exactly.
no point is this qualified a genocide.
Yeah,
But is there killings
Yeah.
of white farmers? Yes,
yeah,
there is. And
yeah.
I am totally against that. But
Mm.
let's not call it a genocide. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
And just to clarify, gents, again, this is a serious problem that needs to be dealt with. And
Mm-hmm.
the solutions will only they won't come from us virtue signaling and saying that this is wrong, etc. The change
Yeah.
needs to come from a complete restructuring of the police, for example. SAPS needs to
Yeah.
be completely reinvented in order to be more effective as a peacekeeping force or as a
Mm-hmm.
force to enforce South African laws. We can't
Yeah.
have vulnerable people who contribute so much to our economy being left on the sidelines to be brutalized and killed. That is
Mm-hmm.
not something that we can allow to happen in a country that's so called run by actual laws. Who's there to
Hmm.
enforce these laws? Who's there to protect the
Hmm.
people who are
Mm-hmm.
so far removed from neighborhoods and cities? Because Ababantu, they live in the wilderness, well, not the wilderness, but I mean in very far removed areas where
Remote
there's very
areas.
little,
Yeah.
Sure,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
sure.
rural areas where they're far removed from the police, they're far removed from
Mm-hmm.
neighbors, so it makes them extremely vulnerable. But to call it a genocide is some other shit. I don't even know what to call it, to be
Yeah,
fair.
let's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
circle back to I just want to go back to Johan Rupert's presence in the
Mm,
meeting, right? I mean, some people call him quote unquote the president of the country. Man has a lot of influence, he's got a lot of business interests in South Africa.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
history of his family in South Africa is very much well known. And the thing is, whether you like it or not, I feel like his presence was needed there because he is the one who set up the initial phone call between Ramaphosa and Donald Trump. He was the mediator between the two men. And another thing is that Trump is someone who will listen to another billionaire. And he's someone who respects wealth and power and influence. And
mm,
not to say that Ramaphosa isn't a person of such stature, right? But there's also a level of identification and relatability when you see another
mm,
rich white man that speaks your language. These guys play golf
Hmm.
together, been friends since the 70s. So
old money.
they have oh,
Hmm.
no, I'm saying
Mm.
they've been friends since the 70s,
No, no,
you know?
I was saying it's old money. It's that they
Yeah,
respect
it's
each other
old
both
money.
because yeah, yeah. Cyril is an
Yeah,
upstart compared to them.
exactly. So, in order for Trump to even give Ramaphosa that time of day, he needs someone like Rupert to vouch for our president. Like,
Mm,
no, you can talk to this guy. This guy knows what he's doing here. Like, you don't have to worry. And that
Hmm.
showed in the entire mood of the what you call the press conference because
Hmm.
Trump was very calm, very diplomatic, very friendly up until things got a bit heated when he brought up the whole white farm killing and everything. Because even the video he showed up, people were also questioning the legitimacy of the video.
mm,
And it just, apart from that moment, I feel like the press conference went very well. They were very, what's the word? Like friendly towards each other. And yeah, they're very amicable, towards
mm,
each other. And I feel like there were talks that were held before the press conference as to okay, this is how we are going to go and about this, and this is what we bring to the table, this is what you bring to the table. And let's just set the record straight for the world to see that we, as two men leading two economies and as trade partners, we can work together amidst our differences. We will resolve that in front of the world, set the record straight, and we'll shake hands and be friendly. And with Ramaphosa even making it clear, he stood on the fact that South Africa's issues, along with America's issues, can only be solved through trade and partnership. I like that he didn't deviate from that and didn't really get caught up in the whirlwind of what you call the white farm killings when things got heated, but he managed to steer the conversation back to what's the most important thing at hand, resetting
Exactly.
the relationships and staying within the trade and partnership dialogue, and I feel like that is where Ramaphosa is good at, and that also like speaks to why Rupert's presence was needed there. Whether you like the man or you don't, you can't deny the man's influence and his importance in that meeting, because you even found some people, in some political parties praising Rupert, especially after he called out Steenhuisen on not telling the whole truth regarding the white farm killings and the crime in the country. So I felt like just my personal opinion, I like that he was there. I like that Umamzingiswalusi was there as well, because she's someone who also spoke about AGOA and AGOA's crucial role in securing jobs, because she talked about if we don't have a Goa, 500,000 jobs in the country stand to be lost, And that's like 500,000 people losing jobs, but those are 500,000 people who have families to feed. So you're looking at probably like 2 million people who are affected alone from that situation, And AGOA is very important because that's also why Steenhuisen was there, because who benefits the most from AGOA? Agriculture, and specifically the Western Cape sector of the agriculture, because that's where most of the citrus fruits get exported, your grapes for wine get exported. They get very favorable access to the US markets. So overall, I can say like I was happy with the meeting personally, right? And I think also what I found really odd about the meeting was the guy in the middle of the whole white farm killing dialogue that was going on, the guy asked Trump about his jet, and Trump lost it. Like, what are you saying, bro? Like, what do
And
you
even
guys
told
think
him
of
they
that?
gave us money, bro. He gave us money. What you talking about?
Exactly, bro.
No, no,
And I,
man.
I I love how Trump flamed him too, because it's like, "Uti nipra?" Like,
Like, what
like,
you asking, bro? But
what are you asking, Doug? Like,
What
going
are
off
you
topic here.
asking?
Like,
what you
what
mean
does
they
what,
gave
what
the
does your
US
question
a private
contribute
jet?
to the main topic here?
At hand, bro.
It's those type of journalists that are like sensationalists. They just want to be there to
Exactly.
get clicks, to get
Mm,
something
Yeah.
controversial out of the orange man's mouth. But okay, I'm
Agent
glad Trump
Orange.
I'm glad
yeah.
Trump handled it the way that he did, because who else would have?
Yeah, he
I was
was
very
probably out of
impressed.
line.
I was very impressed by circling back to the Rupert.
Yeah.
Very impressed by Rupert. Very impressed. Look, like you said, like him or not, dude, the fact remains that he's a heavy businessman in South Africa,
Yeah.
and government is also supported in all its initiatives by a private sector.
Yeah.
So Rupert is a household name in the private sector. So him being there was very strategic. I was very happy with things he said, because if you check, like you said with Steenhuisen thing, dog, he did say that, listen, man, people need to look at the fact that let's not talk about white farmer killings only. Let's talk about the fact that the murder capital in South Africa is Cape Town. And my issue becomes, dude, I was very disappointed by Herzog. Because if you listen to Herzog's pre-interview before all of this happened, he was on the tip that, look, Trump's going to go to Ramaphosa. Trump should invest in the DA. Trump should invest in the Western Cape primarily, and he was specific that just the Western Cape and the DA should be assisted to ensure that South Africa moves in a better direction.
Which is very
Right.
divisive.
And I felt very sad actually after that, because, dude,
Yeah.
how are you talking about the Western Cape? What about the Eastern Cape? What about Gauteng? What about the Northern Cape? Like, I feel like people need to stop living in the past. This is the new South Africa. And if you heard Ramaphosa, he kept on mentioning that, listen, what I'm doing now is what I got from Abo Mandela. They taught
Yes.
to negotiate. They taught me to
Yes.
sit down. and discuss problems and issues that are affecting our countries and try find a solution going forward. So we can't be at a space where we're talking about one political party or we're trying to only support a particular demographic. We passed those stages, bro. I, for one, bro, went to school. I know you guys too went to school where I went to school with white people, Indian people, black people. So I can't be in a space where I'm being forced to choose one side or one province. I love white people, I love black people, I love Indian people, Muslim. I've done business with all, I've worked with all. So let's find a strategy, let's find a solution that's going to assist all South Africans too. The Freedom Charter did state that South Africa belongs to all that stay in it. All. All right.
Exactly.
Let's stop this whole thing of division and all of that. So if you heard, Rupert also spoke about us strengthening our police system. Because the fact is, bro, we do have a very cracky police system where, look, we don't have enough police, first of all. We don't have enough police to try and combat the crime that's happening in South Africa. He did say, can they assist us with drones, technology? Can they assist us actually fight the crime that is happening in South Africa? And Rupert and President Ramaphosa did point out that, look, the two main contributors to the crime in South Africa is number one, inequality, and number two, unemployment.
Thank you.
And that's why he kept on saying that, can we please focus on trade and investment? So we see how we could try and find solutions to combat the crime and also the inequality that is currently giving us problems in South Africa. So, yeah, man. But Rupert was perfect.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Raz. Yeah, sorry, Doc, before you continue, I was just going to say, we can talk about how we need to focus on fixing crime and fixing the police service in order to attract more investment. But at the end of the day, what we need to, as a country, acknowledge and is that crime isn't just something that springs out of nowhere. It's a symptom of a crime doesn't just spring out of the ground. Crime comes from broken families. Crime comes from a dysfunctional society. Crime comes from poor enforcement of laws, etc., etc. Crime comes from poverty, and poverty itself comes from a broken society, etc. So, for as long as we're talking about this issue in the middle, what starts the issue continues. If you hear what I'm saying, we can't keep talking about the middle of the issue. Say, like we need to go back to the beginning of it. Where does it start? How is this country? Yeah, how is this country churning out so many petty criminals, bro, every single day? So we live in some cities where it's gotten to a point where the municipality has even given up on replacing traffic lights, for example, because I'm a pariah, and it's gotten that bad. So it's like, are we asking ourselves the question of where does this start? Like, can we not fix the root cause first? And I'm sure there are many different ways that people would propose to fix the issue from the root cause. But for as long as we're not even talking about it, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. You can talk about reinventing the police and fixing crime and unemployment all we want, but it'll always be an uphill battle of basically trying to put a plaster on a gaping wound. It's not gonna fix the issue. You can stop the bleeding for a bit, but it's gonna get infected and it's gonna get worse. So what do we do? That's one thing I feel like we're not addressing.
So all in all, until we identify the root causes, right? The things like crime will forever be an issue, right? So that's what I'm gathering from what you're saying, Demon.
100%.
Yeah, and so before we move into the next topic, what would you guys say? Like, if you were to envision like the perfect South Africa, I don't want to say the perfect South Africa, but a South Africa where we can all thrive and live in properly. What would that look like in your eyes?
Who wants to go first?
I'll take that one first, bro. I don't mind, bro. Listen, bro. The reality is, in South Africa, we are all aware of the history and past and traumas people have went through during the apartheid era, right? And our leaders and people who led South Africa took a decision after 1994 to stop the war and whatever was happening before and move in a direction where we try and have a rainbow nation where all races and all people live together in harmony. For me, ultimately, number one, let's stop this race, that race, that race, this. That is over. That time of living South Africa is over. If you're still living in those times where you judge a particular race or you don't want a particular race, you're living in the past. Because the current generation, the youth of today, majority of us went to school and grow up and work and do business with all races. So that message doesn't cut through to us. Like, I've got white friends, I've got black friends, I've got Indian friends, I've got Pakistan friends, I've got Muslim friends. And I'm not going to stop being friends with them. And I'm not going to stop being associates or business partners with them because of this a few people here and there who feel like we shouldn't be associated together. I come
Mm-hmm.
from Sabon College, and in Sabon College, I went to school with all types of races. And I
Mm-hmm.
was groomed to be a man that accepts and works together with all types of races. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
ideally, I'd like to see a South Africa where everyone, black, white, Indian, Pakistan, working together to make this country a beautiful country. Our differences should not divide us, but rather unify us, people, please.
Preach, Raz. Preach, Raz. Okay, how about you, Ndima?
So, what does my ideal South Africa look like? So, when it comes to our municipalities, let's start there. I would just like to see our government and by extension our municipality just getting the basics right. Because if you think
Yeah.
about the way that your surroundings affect you psychologically, if everything is dilapidated and everything's falling apart, nothing's being maintained, basic services like sanitation, water, garbage disposal, if all of those things in certain parts of the country are just
Mm-hmm.
being kind of completely neglected, then that's going to it's
Yeah.
going to take a toll on you mentally. So I would
Mm.
like to see a South Africa where we get the basics right first. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Clean streets, maintain streets and infrastructure, deliver basic services consistently. And beyond that, I would love to see a South Africa where everyone just feels safe. No one,
Yeah.
no one is out here looking over their shoulder wherever they go. People aren't afraid to go for a walk at night. Because there are places in the world, like countries like China, as an example. They're not the only ones, but as an example, a lot of people who have either lived there or are currently living there will say it's so safe that you can even leave your cell phone on a bench in the park and still come back the next morning and it'll still be there waiting for you. So
Mm.
safety is another important thing that I would like to see every South African enjoying. Another thing I would love to see is, like Uraz touched on this, is we need to stop the racial animosity. It's not going to take us
Yeah.
anywhere. And it's coming from
Mm.
every angle. I'm not going to say it's white people or it's black people or it's everyone. I'm of the
Yeah.
belief, bro, that everyone to some degree has some kind of tribalism or racism towards another. Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
If you've walked this country and if you've walked the different provinces and you've experienced people and you've listened to people speak, you would know that you've at least once or twice in your life, you've heard people of different kinds of tribes and cultures, etc. Talking smack
Yeah.
about another group of people in what would easily be conceived as racism if it were white people. But the point
Yeah.
is, the racial tension, the tribal tension, the cultural tension doesn't help us. It sets us back.
Yeah.
And this goes back to a theory that I had that could have fixed this problem from the beginning. And it's this theory
Mm-hmm.
that one of the missed opportunities that we really, really missed at the turn of the democracy is we
Mm-hmm.
missed the chance to create some kind of system in the education system where every, let me not say culture, but languages, the official languages are learned across cultures. And it has to be
Mm-hmm.
mandatory
Yeah.
from my city, from grade one. From grade one, let's say you're in the Eastern Cape, because this depends most on where you are geographically in the country, since there's many languages.
Yeah.
But my point is, I wish that we would have implemented this system where if you're in the Eastern Cape, for example, whether you are white, black, colored, etc., you must learn
You
one
must learn to
extra
speak
language.
Xhosa.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yes. If Xhosa, you must learn Afrikaans. If you are English, you
Mm.
must learn Xhosa, etc.,
Mm.
etc. And the vision for this that I had was that if you could do that from 94 up until now, and it's mandatory from grade 1 to, let's say, grade 7, you have to learn a language outside of your culture. By the time kids get to high school, guess what we're going to see? We're going to see white kids, black
Yeah.
kids, Indian kids fluent in Xhosa, fluent in Afrikaans.
Mm.
And then guess what happens from there? You dissolve cultural boundaries by doing that generationally. So now you're going to have, let's
Mm.
say we fast forward 30 years down the line. Then we have the average South African being able to communicate with each other no matter what space they walk into. So if you're white and you happen to be Kwalanga or something, you can communicate with the
Yeah.
people there. if you're black and you happen to be in the deepest parts of the Free State, you can communicate with Afrikaners, you can communicate with anyone. If you're in Limpopo, you can speak Chivenda, etc. That for me was a missed opportunity for us to really build real unity, because what people don't realize about unity is that sometimes it's just because of linguistic barriers.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like for example, China gets a bad rap for being supposedly racist towards black people.
Mm-hmm.
An interesting angle that I discovered is that there are a couple West African expatriates who are living in China who have learned the language fluently. They've learned Mandarin fluently, and they document their experiences wherever they go in China. And they every day they encounter people who have never seen someone like them before.
Mm,
But
mm,
as soon as they hear Mandarin coming out of that man's mouth, it's like you're an old friend. It's like they welcome them,
mhm,
they offer them free
Yeah.
food and all sorts of things. So that for
Yeah, man.
me was a missed opportunity for us to achieve real unity. But the lack of racial tension and tribal tension is one thing I would really love to see in this country, because sometimes you can sense it. You don't even have to experience,
Yeah.
you can sense it sometimes, but okay, this group of people isn't entirely welcome here because of
Yeah.
A, B, and C, because of a cultural or linguistic
Skin
difference.
color.
So yeah, man, just safety, basic services, breaking down cultural barriers. That's the kind of country I would love to live in, because we're sitting on a gold mine and we're squandering it. Not to be pessimistic at the
Preach,
end,
bro.
that's how I feel
Preach.
about it.
Yeah, nah, you made some valid points, bro. And then for me, I'll just wrap it up a bit quickly. I think the most important thing for everyone is economic freedom. We need to right that wrong, because we live in a country where the minority owns the majority of the economy. So that conversation really has to be addressed, and we
Mm,
really need to have solutions where the the most marginalized demographic gets
mm,
access to opportunities as the
yeah,
people who are privileged,
mm,
because at the end of the day, we are on different playing fields. We might be equal when it comes to schooling, but when it comes to
mm,
outside of
mhm,
schooling, there's some people have a head start over others, and that brings a lot of resentment amongst the marginalized. That's why we
mm,
have these type of issues. That's why there's so much conflict. So until we really really sort that issue out, we will always be at each other's throats when it comes to certain
mm,
issues in this country. So yeah, man, economic freedom for me, because you
mm,
both made valid points, so I won't expand on that a bit. But let's just move on to the crime stats. They've been recently released by the Minister of Police, and I'll just say a few stats, right? So from January this year to March this year, murder has dropped by 12.4%, rape has increased by 0.3%, attempted murder has dropped by 5.8%, assault dropped also by 3.4%, carjacking has dropped by 15.1%, house robbery has dropped by 0.4%, and stock theft has dropped by 8.9%. So overall, crime has dropped, but these are just numbers. But
mm,
when we're talking empirically, we are still feeling the threat of crime every day. So
mm.
I would just like to get your opinions on those figures and what really stands out for you.
Well, for me, I would say it seems like those changes, especially the drops, they come
Hmm.
off a little bit arbitrary in my opinion, because
Yeah.
unless it's like by a large margin, then when it's a large margin, then we can say with confidence, but okay, it's happening because A, B, and C has been done. Like consciously,
Hmm.
like whether it's the police have put in certain measures or local communities have become more vigilant. But when the percentages are like 0.8, it's like maybe it's just like a fluke, because it might spike next quarter, who knows. But I think it
mhm,
just goes to show that we really need to focus on the real issue, not the issues but the real solutions. It's not enough to
Yeah.
talk about these things and talk about them. We know by now this is a violent
Yeah.
country. It's not the most violent, but it is a violent country full of petty
Hmm.
crime, full of violent crime. So, what are we going to do about it
mm,
to make a conscious effort and actually make a real impact, so that we don't just say, "Oh, rape dropped by 0.5%." It's gonna be like, okay,
It's no
so what?
difference.
It's no difference.
Yeah.
The issue remains every minute someone is getting raped in this country, every
Mm,
minute. And that is insane. And it's even
mm,
worse when you consider who the perpetrators are. Because I don't know if there's been a change recently, but it's been long established that the perpetrators of rape are commonly usually people who are close to the victims, oftentimes. Why is that happening? Why are we seeing rapes by a father to a daughter, or, why are we seeing this
An
happening
uncle
within
to a
families?
stepdaughter or something. Yeah.
You know, why are we seeing this happening within families, within communities? Why? Because we always thought it was some stranger from around the
Mm,
corner.
Mm,
But
mm,
oftentimes,
mm.
especially when it comes to children, by the way, it's usually
mhm,
someone who's close to the family, which is why, like,
mm,
it's technically not a great idea for you to leave your kids with a relative unless you know this person inside and out and you have the utmost
yeah.
confidence
You
that
try
but the stats don't lie. They say that when it comes to children in particular, the biggest perpetrators of sexual abuse are people who are
relatives,
close to those kids. So,
which is
yeah,
sad. Very sad.
extremely sad.
When it
How
comes to the
about you,
crime
Sunshine?
stats, yeah, dude, when it comes to the crime stats, I don't know how to feel, man. I'm mixed emotions because
Hmm.
I see the minister says that basically the crime stats in South Africa and all contact crimes decreased in this period, except
Yeah.
for sexual offences,
Mm,
particularly in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, because they're contributing, I think Gauteng's contributing 9.1 and KZN 99.9 nationally
mm,
to the sexual offences and rape figures. So I'm not so sure, bro, because another thing becomes not all crimes are reported. That's another issue we have in South Africa, that not all crimes are reported,
mm,
especially with sexual offences.
yeah.
Most people come years after to report what actually happened because they were scared at the time, maybe they were threatened to be killed, or whatever the case is. So we're dealing with the issue where, like Utandiro was saying, it's half and half because did it really decrease? Because if you live in society, you'll notice that crime is still rampant in South Africa. Like you
Exactly.
still get out the house and you're scared, bro, because people rob you all the time, bro. But people still have high
Hmm.
security walls because they're scared all the time. And even with that, people still get killed and murdered and robbed. So
Mm,
I'm not so sure if crime in South Africa is we winning this battle, but
yeah.
definitely I think you heard, like I said, Rupert said, look, he's asking for assistance and Ramaphosa from the US to assist with drones and assist maybe employ more police. That's a good initiative. Will it happen? Will it not happen? I don't know. But definitely, I think also a society, like a society, dog, we shouldn't leave all of this to the
Mm,
police. What Tutandiro was
preach.
saying, we need to speak about this. I'm glad we're speaking
Hmm.
about this. So we make people aware of it. And we try to find ways as the community to try to sort this out. You shouldn't have to wait for the police minister to assist or a police to assist. Like if you see a kid or a young kid
Yeah.
being something being done to a young girl that you feel like, no man, this
Yeah.
is out of order, you can stop that. Or at least find
Yeah.
assistance around you if you can't alone to try and stop whatever they're trying to do to that young kid. You don't need to wait or try to get to the police station first. So I think as society, let's also play our role. Let's not just leave it to government. Let's just not leave it to the police. Let's do what we can in our corners to try to stop all of this crime and all of these sexual offences that are happening in South Africa.
How do you,
Yeah.
gents, just
Preach.
just just to sort of go on a
Mm.
little bit of a tangent, but it's relevant to the topic. How do you, gents, feel about gun ownership in this country? Should more average South Africans have a gap to protect themselves, or what do you think?
Hey, man,
I
get the strap.
Get the strap. Get the
Get the
strap.
strap,
nah,
bro.
I'm
Nobody's
half and
buying
half
like
with
that.
that. No way.
Nobody's buying like that.
No ways, bro. No
Nobody's
ways,
buying
bro.
like
So
you're not gonna. You can't wait for Sabs, dog. You can't wait for
Hey,
nah,
Sabs.
bro.
dog,
The
get the
walk,
Nah, bro.
strap.
the walk from your
That's
gate to
another.
your front door is 2 minutes long.
No,
Sabs
Yeah,
is
dog.
45 minutes away. Your fires at 0.9 seconds. Think about it, bro.
that's another
Think about
problem,
that.
bro. Because in South Africa we have a problem of too many people carrying illegal guns, bro. There's too many people in South
Yeah.
Africa with guns
Mm,
that shouldn't have
mm,
guns, bro. And
Mm.
because of
mm,
people trying to open up the system to people to have guns, and people obviously, some people don't follow the
mm,
law and try to get things another way.
Yeah.
So, hey, bro, that's another problem because most of these killings and most of the crimes that are taking place in South Africa are with
mm.
unlicensed guns.
Yeah.
So
Now
we
I was just
give
referring to
people
like legal gun ownership,
Legal
like
gun ownership.
legal, yeah,
law
legal is
abiding
fine, yeah,
citizens.
for sure.
Yes, law abiding citizens should totally have a gap legally.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Quick one before, just quick one, man. What's your guys' take on the borders in South Africa? Because that's another
Oh,
issue, bro. That is
yeah.
contributing to the
Oh,
crime. Because a lot of people are entering South Africa. I mean, some of our borders don't even have fences. And people just
mm,
walk across and come to South Africa, especially from Zimbabwe. You can walk from Zimbabwe across to South Africa.
People get touched with
And
this topic, eh?
no. Here's the thing, bro. No. It's not about. We need to speak facts. And we're stating facts.
No, for
You
sure.
can't. You entering a country by just
Mhm.
walking through it. Number one, that's not good on both sides. South Africa's not doing a good job by ensuring that we actually have proper borders. And they're also taking advantage of the fact that we don't have proper borders to get in. So I'm not saying anyone's right, anyone's wrong. Those are facts. That is what is happening in South Africa. The problem is
Yeah.
that it's contributing to the crime because we have a lot of people who are here in South Africa, number one, undocumented. Number two, when they do things, you can't, like if someone murders someone and they don't have any documents, you can't, like, how are you going to take that person to jail, bro? How do you take that person to jail?
There's a simple
You
analogy.
can't even, yeah.
Sorry, dog, not to cut you off, Ned, but there's a simple
Yeah.
analogy that I bring to people who are like vehemently in a disagreement with controlling the borders. It's simple. Would you ever allow a stranger into your house to sleep in your living room? Undocumented, you don't know who they are. Maybe you have an idea of where they came from, but you have no idea who this person is. You can't vouch for are they here to do bad or good? You don't know. Would you ever
Yeah.
allow a stranger to live in your house? Yes or no?
No, bro.
Obviously not.
Exactly. So
No.
then why do people feel so strongly against the idea of securing borders? No one's saying we don't want immigrants. We welcome immigrants. That's how you
Yeah.
build a nation. The problem is we don't want illegal immigration because you're breaking the law. If we're not cool with any other law being broken in this country, we shouldn't be cool with the immigration laws being broken. You know, it's as
No,
simple as that.
Dandira, this is
Yeah.
very simple, bro. We mentioned earlier on the show, I think 20 minutes in or 30 minutes in. People need to understand, as we're sitting here, bro, we are all about peace and justice and the country moving forward. So we love all types of people, Black, Indian, Zimbabwean, Congo. We exist because of other nations. We trade with these
100%.
nations and we accept that, bro. And we still want to trade with these nations, by the way.
Yeah.
However, like you said, we don't want people entering the country illegally. That is a crime.
Undocumented.
Yes, that's not something we have to shy away from. Like, if someone
Yeah.
enters South Africa, you must enter South Africa legally by the right processes and procedures, and everything is fine. So that if anything happens to you or to another party, we are able to find a way to deal with that issue, bro. And this goes for their countries too, bro. When we go to their countries, when we go to other countries, bro, like we try going illegally, at least as far as I know.
We try
Like,
go legally.
yes, sorry, not my word. Yeah, but you get what I mean, dog. Like we
Yeah,
don't,
I got you,
enter
bro.
these countries, like illegally, bro. Like we do whatever they need, the visas, whatever that country needs for us to enter there. That's what we do. So why is it in
We
South
got
Africa?
documents, bro.
Yeah, why in South Africa people can just enter and be like, it's fine. They can just bro. Like there needs to be law and order in South Africa. Because remember, people shift drugs at borders. The hijacking of cars get shifted at borders.
Yeah.
Sex trafficking takes place at borders. There's a lot of crimes and things that happens at borders, bro. That really, bro. Like we need to find a way to stop it.
We need to find a way, and we need to find a way urgently, very urgently, guys, because until something changes, nothing will change, And speaking about change, the Premier League is about to end tomorrow, We are approaching the business end of we're approaching the business end of the season. It's the Champions League final next week. We just saw Man United lose to Tottenham Hotspur in the Europa League. What is your guys' take on just the football in general? Like how have you enjoyed the season?
Gents,
Yeah.
you know me. I'm a combat sports guy. Y'all can carry this one.
You're a violent mofo, that's the thing.
What? What the hell, dog?
Dog.
Lies. I'm the most
Dude.
peaceful one of the three of us.
Can I tell you what Ndima used to say, bro, in high school?
Yeah.
That was his thing.
When did I ever?
That was the thing. That's
Yeah.
violent, bro. Don't be fooled by his calm demeanor. No, this is a violent dude. And then go back to the football. Like I'll kick it off, bro. Like, okay, Liverpool won the league. I'm obviously happy about that. What's been interesting in the Premier League is the quote unquote not teams that are not in the big six, like Newcastle showing their hand, Nottingham Forest also showing their hand, competing for the European spots, that will be determined by the end of tomorrow. So that's been a very interesting challenge to see, and it's going to be very interesting to see who really makes the final cut, because Chelsea has something to say, Newcastle has something to say, Manchester City isn't really safe, like just yet. Nottingham Forest has something to say, and I think also Aston Villa, if I'm not mistaken, has something to say. So it's very interesting. And when you also consider the fact that there might be 7 teams that qualify for next season's Champions League, it's going to be one for the books.
It's crazy, man. Crazy,
Yeah,
crazy,
it's
crazy.
going to be very crazy. What do you think,
Yeah.
Raz? You a Chelsea guy?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Haha, this guy, bro. Nah, I'm a Chelsea supporter forever, dog. Chelsea, Kaiser Chiefs,
Hmm.
till I die, bro. Look, dude, number one, shout out to Liverpool, bro. Shout out to Liverpool, dog. From the jump, Liverpool held the season
Yeah,
down. At the same time, shout out to Arsenal. Newcastle, dog. Newcastle was
yeah.
fire this season, bro.
Carabao Cup champions. Yeah,
You get what I'm saying, bro? So shout out
first
to
trophy in
Liverpool,
70
Arsenal.
years.
And then when ish, bro, Man U, Tottenham, very sad, man. Man U, Tottenham, they need to do better, bro. Man U, Tottenham, we all know Man U, Tottenham are heavy clubs in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And this season didn't go too well. I hope next season they come back better. I trust these clubs. These are household
Hmm.
names. So let's see what happens next season. But to the Liverpool fans, to the Arsenal fans, and Man City and Newcastle, shout out, guys. You guys did a great job this season.
But it's also been
Just
a season
yeah,
of, like I'm saying, it's also been a season of the ending of droughts.
mm,
Newcastle won their
mm,
first major trophy in 70 years. Crystal
mm.
Palace won was it the FA Cup?
Yes, yes.
Crystal Palace won the FA Cup, their first ever trophy in their entire history. You got Tottenham Hotspur, who won their first trophy in 17 years. So it's been a very groundbreaking season in that respect, because like you always expect like the household names to win the trophies, and this hasn't been the case. And when we're talking about the Champions League, who do you guys have between Inter Milan and PSG?
Champions League, Inter Milan, Champions League. Ah, okay, works,
It's
bro.
gonna be a cracker. It's gonna be a
It's gonna
cracker
be a
of a
cracker,
game.
bro. It's gonna be a cracker, dog. Quick one, dog. Just while you're busy with that, dog. I actually
Hmm.
want to say, because we're in South Africa, shout out to the South African football teams this year, dog. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
people. Okay, so here's the thing, bro. Why I'm saying this is because South African football people weren't playing quality football, and that's facts for some time, and they were aware of this because the stadium attendance was lower. People were very unhappy. The people were striking here and there, and people were just not happy with the football produced by South Africa. And this year, however, people got back to watching South African football because they were playing quality football. You'd find stadiums
Talk about
packed.
it.
When Chiefs and Pirates are playing, people actually go to stadiums now. There's that buzz going
Mm.
on in South Africa, which had
Because our
gone
national
away
team
for
is doing
years.
well. Our
Yes,
national
dog.
team is doing well. Like shout out to the
So
under 20. Sorry, ne?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like shout
yeah.
out to the under 20 team who won the AFCON, bro. That's
For
something to
sure, dog.
mention and worth celebrating.
For
And our
sure,
national
dog.
team,
Like
the senior national team, is doing well as well.
For sure, dog. Like number one, dog. Shout out in the PSL, dog, or they call it the
Hmm.
Betway now, Premiership.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sundowns, dog. Sundowns won this thing, I think, like 8 or 9 times in a row now, dog. Like it's Sundowns. Shout out Sundowns. Shout out to Pirates. Dude,
Hmm.
Pirates stepped up this season. Pirates stepped up. They
Hmm.
were running the CAF. They were running the cups. They won the NTN 8. They second in the log. So it was really exciting, and I hope the South African players bring back this action next year and actually take it higher.
How can you not mention Kaizer Chiefs, bro? They won the Nedbank Cup after
Shout
how
out
long,
that
bro? Come on.
Shout out, and I'm a
Bro.
Chiefs fan. Dog.
And
So
you're a
happy
Chiefs
that day.
fan.
I was so happy that day, dog. Yeah, shout out to Chizo win the netback, man. Shout out. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, this whole excitement and this whole vibe that's coming back in South African football is
Yeah,
beautiful because this actually
it's
boosts the
beautiful.
economy. Jess. This boosts the economy.
Yeah.
It's not a small
Mm.
thing. South African
Tourism.
dog. When you talk of Chiefs, Pirates, Sundowns, all these teams are recognized internationally. So shout out to these guys doing this. Was really good. Nedbank Cup with Chiefs and Pirates 2-1. They shout out to Chiefs after so many years. They came back, finally won a cup. Impressed, man. Impressed with South African football. Impressed with the football in England. And let's see what happens with the Champions League final.
Okay, now back to my question. Who do you got, Raz? Inter Milan or PSG? I saw you were very political about this question.
Inter Milan and PSG. Inter Milan and PSG.
Yes.
Ash, bro, I give it to PSG. I
Hmm.
give it to PSG. I think. Let's see how it goes. But I give it to PSG.
Yeah, PSG has been very good this season, under Luis Enrique. Dembele has been sensational. Who else do they got there? Dembele has been sensational, but honestly, I'm an Inter Milan fan in terms of like watching Serie A. I really hope that that what you call this Inter Milan wins, because it was heartbreaking to watch them lose to Man City in 2023. Shout out to Man City for winning, but a lot of us, I'd say quote unquote purists, wanted Inter Milan to win to quote unquote save football. It's going to be a very exciting final, because PSG has been knocking at the door. PSG has been knocking at the door for years now, and it's been unfortunate. It's either they lose in the final or they lose in the semi-final. So it would be a major, major win for them. Shout out to Inter Milan as well, man. They just lost narrowly to Napoli in terms of the Serie A. Napoli won the Serie A, the Italian league. So I'm just rooting for them to win, and we'll just have to see what happens, man. And also, just to wrap things up, gents, I don't know what to say next. Dima, you got anything to say? What do you what's on your mind? Like, is there anything you'd like to share in terms of like the UFC, since you don't follow football?
UFC is kind of up lately, but I'm just keen for Crawford versus Canelo.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's a big one.
It's a huge
That's a
one.
big one. It's a big
Mm.
one, and I think I've got Terence Crawford for that fight, but I can never count out Canelo. And
Never.
especially that you've got rumors that Floyd might be in Crawford's
Crawford's
training
corner.
camp,
Yeah, it's gonna be a very
because
interesting fight, dog, for sure.
yeah, it's one for the ages, bro.
Mm,
Because yeah, boxing has been uninteresting like in recent years. I mean, we had the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder fight, and then after
mm,
that, you didn't really hear much. I'm not a boxing fan per se, so I
mm,
can't really speak in depth about the sport. But I know I've got friends who are like real big time boxing fans. So I'm
mm.
just speaking from someone. I wouldn't say, yeah, someone who's like who watches it casually.
Boxing and UFC are quite similar these days in that I don't know, it feels like they've peaked. They both peaked decades ago. The UFC, people would
Yeah.
say that the UFC peaked probably maybe in the at the height
Mm,
of the McGregor versus Khabib beef,
yeah.
back when there was still your Iceman Liddells and your Rashad Evanses and your Rampage Jacksons. Those days were the peak days of UFC. These days, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what Dana's doing, but I can't remember the last time I was genuinely like excited for a UFC card. I can't
Mm.
remember. But I am looking forward to, yeah, the Canelo and Crawford fight is definitely gonna be something to look forward to for sure.
100%, bro. And just to wrap things up, guys, it's been another amazing episode, and there was a lot to talk about. So we still have a lot more to talk about. I feel like we're just scratching the surface in this podcast game, and yeah, we're just getting started, gents. And if there's nothing else you or Sunshine would like to say, then I think it's I think it's fair to say we can wrap this one up and just let the people decide how they digest this information. And we could always
Mm,
circle back to any topics people felt that we haven't touched on properly. But it's an open discussion for everyone. Let us know what you
mm,
guys think in the comments, and we'll be sure to respond to everyone as best as we can.
mhm,
Ox, before you go, man, shout out to
Mm-hmm.
everyone showing us love on the gram. Shout out to everyone showing us love on TikTok. Shout out to everyone showing us
100%.
love on Facebook. Shout out to everyone showing us love on YouTube. Shout out to
mm,
everyone showing us love on Spotify, on Podbean. Like, guys, your love is amazing. Thank you, guys. Thank you,
mm,
guys. You guys are the reason we do this, actually. So, shout out to everyone. Please, man, tune in. Tell us, like Walks was saying, man, comment in the comment section. Let us know if there's things you feel like you want us to
mm,
discuss or expand upon. If
Mm-hmm.
you guys have people maybe you feel like we need to talk to or include in the
mm,
show, let us know, gents. We open,
mhm,
hit us up on the DMs. We here, man. Catch us,
mm.
man. Thank you,
Yeah.
bro.
In
Even let
terms
us
of
know if you
guests,
think, sorry, Doug, but even let us know if you think we got something wrong. Like
yeah.
we're open to any critique. We're open to any suggestions. Let us know if you feel like we missed the ball on something. You know.
Yeah, we're open to that. And in terms of guests, like the people that you guys recommend would be great on the show, you have to help us get them. So that's
Mm,
the challenge we bring to you guys. And if there's nothing else the guys want to say, it's been another amazing episode with Raz, Dima, and myself, Sipo. And we'll see you guys on the flip side. And this is not another podcast. Cheers.